Imagine going to, like, your highly anticipated high school reunion, right?
Oh, boy.
And you show up and you realize your former classmates aren't just, miserable. They're actively running a violent crime syndicate.
Yeah, quite the reunion.
Exactly. Welcome to the return of HBO's Euphoria. It is Monday, May 4th, 2026, and if you have opened really any social media app today, you know the internet is absolutely reeling from last night's broadcast of Season 3, Episode 4.
Reeling is almost an understatement at this point. I mean, the cultural whiplash is just impossible to ignore right now.
It really is.
Because after this massive 4-year hiatus, the show comes back, and it has completely shed its original skin.
Yeah, the glitter is gone.
Exactly. The neon-drenched hallways, that's all memory. These characters are adults now, and the consequences they're facing have escalated to, like, these literal life-or-death extremes.
Which is exactly why we are taking your curated stack of sources today. I mean, we've got everything in here from dense industry audits and scathing Rotten Tomatoes reviews to these wildly polarized Reddit threads.
There is a lot to get through.
There is. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this massive, glaring paradox. How in the world did Euphoria Season 3 just shatter its own viewership records while simultaneously becoming a critical disaster?
Right.
We're going to analyze the massive tonal shifts driving this conversation and try to figure out what is really going on behind the camera.
Yeah, and to really understand that paradox, we have to look at the raw numbers side by side with the critical reception because the contrast is staggering.
It's crazy.
Right. So the season premiere drew a massive 8.5 million U.S. viewers across all platforms in just its first 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a 44% jump over the Season 2 debut. I mean, on X, the hashtag trended for 12 consecutive hours.
12 hours.
12 hours straight. So commercially speaking, it is an absolute juggernaut.
But then, you looked at the reviews, and it is just a completely different reality. Because in Season 1, roughly 8 out of 10 critics loved the show. It got an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, very solid.
And Season 2 held strong, right? It was at 78%. But now, this season debuted at a series low 42%.
Ouch.
And some outlets in our sources are reporting it as low as 40%. So that isn't just a slump. That is a total critical freefall. It earned that harsh, rotten designation.
And the language the critics are using, it's incredibly visceral. They aren't just politely declining the new season. They are tearing it down to the studs.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the New York Post called it an unhinged disaster, specifically describing it as Breaking Bad meets Looney Tunes.
Which is quite the visual.
Right. Meanwhile, The Guardian went even darker. They labeled it humorless torture porn and just dismissed it as grim TV.
Humorless torture porn.
Yeah.
That is, that's brutal. And the audience score is sitting at this really divisive 51%.
Right.
So if the reviews are terrible and fans are flooding Reddit to just complain about how miserable the viewing experience is, what are they actually tuning in to see?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Because 8.5 million people don't just accidentally leave their TVs on,
Yeah.
We're seeing this massive surge of people online admitting they are strictly, quote-unquote, hate-watching the show, just to mock it. But is the hate-watch phenomenon really enough to sustain a blockbuster production?
I mean, hate-watching can definitely drive the initial curiosity, sure. But long-term engagement on this massive scale, that requires a different psychological hook.
Okay, like what?
Well, think about it. Over the past 4 years, the core cast members, Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi, they've transcended the show.
Oh, totally. They're everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are genuine A-list global megastars now. So what we're seeing is less about the narrative itself and more about parasocial relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the audience feels compelled to tune in just to witness these massive celebrities navigate scenarios that feel honestly incredibly absurd. It's morbid curiosity on a macro scale.
That makes perfect sense, actually. So if they are tuning in for the spectacle, we kind of have to look at what creator Sam Levinson actually built to house that spectacle. Right. Because he didn't just tweak the formula, he completely blew up the foundation with this 5-year time jump. He took a high school drama and morphed it into a sprawling neo-Western crime thriller.
The genre shift is radical. I mean, Rue is now 23 years old, she is not sober, and she's no longer sneaking around suburban parties. She is actively working as a drug mule for a cartel down in Mexico.
Let's talk about the math on that for a second, because this is where that Breaking Bad comparison really crystallizes.
Oh yeah, the debt.
Right. Remember that $10,000 debt Rue owed Lori back in Season 2 after her mom flushed her suitcase of drugs?
Yep.
Well, with a 5-year time jump and whatever insane compounding interest of cartel charges, that debt has ballooned to a staggering $43 million.
It's just absurd.
It completely shatters the relatable, localized tension of a teenager in trouble and launches it straight into unbelievable action movie territory.
It does, and the show leans into that grit with zero hesitation. I mean, there is a highly graphic scene early in the season where Rue and Frey are shown physically swallowing lube-coated balloons of fentanyl to smuggle them across the border.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to watch. It's designed to elicit this visceral, almost nauseating reaction from the viewer. It really forces you to confront the gruesome mechanics of the life she's trapped in.
It honestly makes you squirm in your seat.
Yeah.
And those harsh realities, they extend to the rest of the cast, too.
Right.
Fisco's storyline is incredibly sobering. It acts as this on-screen tribute to the late Angus Cloud. Fesco is technically alive in the universe of the show, but he's off-screen serving a 30-year prison sentence.
Yeah, it casts a really heavy shadow over the entire narrative. And as for the rest of the ensemble, I mean, they are scattered entirely.
All over the place.
Yeah. Cassie and Nate are locked in this deeply toxic marriage, funding an extravagant but totally hollow lifestyle strictly through Cassie's OnlyFans account.
Which is a whole situation.
Yeah. Right. And Lexi is out in Hollywood working as a production assistant for a soap opera producer who, by the way, is brilliantly played by Sharon Stone.
Loved her in it.
Maddie is navigating the corporate world in PR, and Jules is surviving as a sugar baby.
Wait, okay, I'm struggling with that logic, though.
Yeah.
Levinson scatters these characters across Hollywood, Mexico, and suburban Texas. But wasn't the entire magic of the first 2 seasons the fact that they were all trapped in the same claustrophobic high school hallways?
Yes, that's exactly the issue.
Right. Like when you force disparate, messy teenagers to share the same bathrooms and cafeterias, it creates this natural pressure cooker. By physically isolating them as adults, didn't the show just destroy the communal glue that made those character dynamics work in the first place?
You've hit on the core structural critique found in almost all the negative reviews in our sources.
Really?
Yeah. When you remove the high school, you lose that organic collision of storylines. You no longer have the built-in excuse for these wildly different people to even interact.
That makes a lot of sense.
The physical distance between the characters, it reflects the emotional isolation they're experiencing in their 20s, which, you know, is a valid theme to explore, but it makes for incredibly fragmented television. You're essentially watching 4 separate shows trying to share the same time slot.
Yeah, exactly. And to match this fragmented, dark, adult narrative, Levinson went a step further. He didn't just change the plot, he completely overhauled the technical DNA of the show.
You really did.
Based on the industry audits in our stack, we are looking at a massive, highly calculated rebrand. The visual aesthetic has completely pivoted away from the digital, neon-drenched hyperpop of Season 1.
Say goodbye to the glitter tears.
Right. They moved to a cinematic luxury adult noir. The director of photography, Marcel Rev, shot this new season entirely on 65mm VistaVision, using Kodak Verita 200D film stock.
Let's break down why that specific technical choice is so alienating for some viewers, though.
Yeah, go for it.
So, shooting on 65mm film physically alters the image you see on screen. It provides a much wider field of view, incredibly rich color density, and a very shallow depth of field.
Okay.
It makes every single frame look like a high-end fashion editorial. It is the format used for sweeping historical epics, not, intimate character dramas.
Yeah, I mean, they literally built a massive 15-foot border wall on a set in Lancaster, Texas, just to shoot a single scene of Rue precariously escaping in her Jeep.
Wow.
The scale is gargantuan. But my question is why? Why take a show famous for its messy, chaotic intimacy and shoot it like a summer blockbuster?
Because of what industry analysts are calling the cast-a-campaign pipeline.
Cast-a-campaign?
Yeah. This is a highly calculated business move by HBO to capture the 78th primetime Emmy window and attract high-end luxury fashion houses.
Ah, okay. Money.
Always. In the early seasons, the show drove fast fashion trends, think neon makeup, cheap, trendy outfits. But now, HBO wants the show to act as a prestige billboard for brands like Prada, YSL, and Gucci. Shooting on 65mm film subconsciously signals luxury and prestige to both Emmy voters and high-end advertisers.
It's like an edgy, underground indie band suddenly hiring a 100-piece symphony orchestra for their second album.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. I mean, it sounds incredibly expensive, but doesn't this pursuit of large-format prestige actually detach the viewer? Like, You're so busy admiring the gorgeous film stock that you lose the raw, messy intimacy that made you actually care about the characters in the first place.
That is exactly the trade-off. It elevates the production value, sure, but it sacrifices the emotional resonance. You're watching a beautiful, sweeping painting of a terrible event rather than feeling like you're, trapped in a dirty bathroom stall with these characters.
Yeah.
And that detachment isn't just visual. The auditory landscape has suffered the exact same shift.
Right, Labyrinth is out. His ethereal electronic synth scores practically defined the heartbeat of Gen Z anxiety for 2 seasons.
Absolutely.
And who did they bring in to replace him? Hans Zimmer.
Which is just a fascinating pivot.
It's wild.
I mean, Zimmer is a legend, right? He's known for massive, booming, grandiose orchestral swells, think Inception or Dune.
Exactly.
But critics and fans are complaining that his score lacks the specific, localized life and luster of the original. One industry audit in our stack actually brutally referred to Zimmer's contribution as having, quote, boomer vibes.
Boomer vibes on the defining show of Generation Z. That is rough.
That's harsh.
But I get it. I really do. A massive orchestral swell feels fundamentally opposed to the chaotic, hyper-online brain of a 23-year-old. It feels too composed, too mature for a show about people making incredibly reckless decisions.
Totally.
And speaking of reckless decisions, despite this pristine, highly expensive visual rebrand, the actual content of the show is actively courting more controversy than ever.
Oh, without a doubt. The outrage machine is currently running at maximum capacity following last night's broadcast of Episode 4, which is titled, Kitty Likes to Dance.
Yeah, fans are absolutely furious over what they are calling humiliation rituals, specifically directed at Sydney Sweeney's character, Cassie. We are seeing scenes of Cassie doing OnlyFans content, dressed up as a puppy, literally wagging a tail, and in another sequence, she is dressed as a baby in a diaper.
It's intense.
Levinson claims these bizarre choices are meant to highlight the absurdity of her illusion and kind of break the fourth wall for the audience. But looking at the graphic extremes of this episode, where does the line exist between biting social commentary and just pure exploitation of the actress?
Well, it's a line that a vast majority of the audience feels was completely obliterated. The discomfort is just palpable online. Now, to be fair to the mechanics of the episode, it did bring back some of the show's signature Hitchcockian tension earlier in the runtime.
Right, let's explain that term for a second for the listener. Hitchcockian tension is the classic bomb under the table theory.
Right.
If a bomb goes off under a table by surprise, you get 10 seconds of shock. But if you show the audience the bomb ticking under the table and the characters don't know it's there, you get 15 minutes of agonizing suspense.
Exactly. And Episode 4 executed that brilliantly in a scene where Rue is wearing a wire for the DEA while dealing cards at a cartel poker game.
That scene was incredible.
Right. The audience knows she's bugged, but the cartel doesn't. It is excruciating, masterful television. But all of that technical goodwill was instantly overshadowed by the final act of the episode.
Oh, the final act.
Yeah, a deeply disturbing, completely non-consensual scene involving a new dancer named Kitty at the Silver Slipper Club, Alamo's Men, and a champagne bottle.
It really crossed a major boundary for viewers who was incredibly graphic, and critics were arguing it was entirely gratuitous.
Absolutely.
Like the horror of that environment could have been conveyed without subjecting the audience and the character to that level of visual trauma. I mean, Zendaya's haunted expression while she was watching the security monitors did all the emotional heavy lifting.
That's a great point.
We didn't actually need to see the footage.
No, we didn't. And when a creator continually pushes the envelope purely for shock value, it inevitably forces the audience to search for a deeper meaning, to justify their discomfort.
Right.
Because of this extreme content, the show has essentially become a political Rorschach test.
Yes. And what's fascinating looking through the sources is how the show's chaotic messaging is generating intense reactions from completely opposite ends of the political spectrum.
It really is.
We're seeing viewers project their own anxieties right onto the screen. For example, and we're just reporting what the sources say here, not taking sides at all, some right-wing viewers are interpreting strong conservative or Christian messaging this season.
Right.
They point to Rue's idealization of an off-grid Christian family in Texas, the script's open critiques of, quote, commie colleges, and Maddie proudly declaring to a corporate boss that she believes in capitalism.
And at the exact same time, left-wing audiences are citing those exact same episodes as aggressively pushing their agendas.
It's wild.
They point to the perceived normalization of sex trafficking, the glamorization of sex work, and strong anti-capitalist critiques baked into the dialogue, like the fear of self-driving cars replacing Uber drivers, or the overarching moral bankruptcy of the Hollywood elite.
It is wildly apparent that the ambiguity of the writing is just frustrating everyone. When a show tries to be a mirror for everything, it often ends up reflecting nothing clearly.
Exactly.
Instead of provoking deep philosophical thought, it's really just generating reactionary outrage on all sides.
Viewers are desperately searching for a coherent moral framework in a universe that actively refuses to provide one.
Yeah.
And when you combine that lack of a moral compass with $43 million debts and explicit visual trauma, you create an environment where the characters can no longer just casually survive. The debts are coming due both literally and narratively.
So what does this all mean for the endgame? With the stakes this high and the backlash this severe, we really have to ask where this runaway train is heading. We only have a few episodes left.
Well, all signs point to this being the definitive end. Zendaya confirmed in a recent interview that she believes Season 3 is the finale. She explicitly stated, quote, "Closure is coming."
Wow. Okay.
Furthermore, Sam Levinson himself admitted he wrote this season as if it were the last, stating that if this is the end, he is happy to walk away.
Well, episode 5, which is ominously titled This Little Piggy, airs next week. And the trailer alone promises an even deeper descent for both Cassie and Rue.
Oh, it looks intense.
Right. We see Cassie declaring she will, quote, do anything for her fans, while Rue's double life as a DEA informant appears to be teetering on the edge of complete collapse.
It feels like a violent collision course. The time for setting up the dominoes is over, you know? They are starting to fall.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to mull over as we approach the finale. If this truly is the end of the line for Euphoria, what will its ultimate legacy actually be?
That's the real question.
Will it be remembered as a groundbreaking, era-defining exploration of Gen Z trauma and addiction? Or is it going to be viewed as a cautionary tale of a brilliant aesthetic that eventually collapsed under the weight of its own obsession with shock value?
Yeah.
When a show's defining characteristic is boundary pushing, is it inevitable that it eventually just, pushes the audience away entirely?
That is the ultimate paradox of prestige television. To keep shocking an increasingly desensitized audience, you have to go to darker, more extreme places until the original humanity that drew people in is completely eclipsed by the spectacle.
It really makes you wonder if that 5-year high school reunion was doomed from the start. But we want to hear from you. For those of you watching on YouTube, drop into the comment section below and answer this question. Do you think the 5-year time jump ruined Euphoria? Or was it a necessary evolution for these characters to grow?
I'm really curious to see what people say about that.
Same here. Let us know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next exploration.